You are listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana Manikowski, episode number 195. So now what? These three words raced through my mind time and time again during my journey through fertility treatments. I tried desperately to have a child, but never was able. I yearned for a community to join that could understand my struggles. I couldn't find one, so I created one with the So Now What podcast. I love that you found us. Hey, hot mama. How are you? I know it's Christmas week, and I am not talking about Christmas this week on the episode. I feel like we've done a good job of that between my masterclass last week and episodes that have come out over the last couple weeks. I think you're ready. I think you've got what you need to look at Christmas, look at the holidays, look at how you play into the holidays in a different way. So if you're feeling like you need more, reach out to me. Let me know. We can talk, we can chat through things, but we got limited time, ladies, because Christmas is upon us. So, what I want to talk about this week is something that happened to me when I was out for dinner. And a lot of the stuff that I talk about on the podcast, I don't know if you listen to a lot of other podcasts, but some people like record their podcast episodes months in advance, weeks in advance. I don't know. I'm not there. I like to experience things. Either it's with my coaching clients in the Thrive After Infertility coaching program that I have, or it's something that has happened in my own life. And I feel compelled to bring it and talk about it here. And sometimes I just don't have moments that I can, what they call batch record podcasts. So I am bringing this to you fresh off an experience I had just the other night. So, like when you overhear something in public that just kind of makes you stop in your tracks. This is what we're going to talk about this week because this is what happened to me. So Jack and I went out to dinner downtown in Chicago where I live after we went to this beautiful Christmas concert, and we went to one of our favorite French restaurants. It's like this cozy, real, like, I don't know, it feels Parisian, although I've never been to Paris. It just, I don't know, it feels just like real swanky and like lovely. And it was just like one of those nights where you feel so lucky to be exactly where you are in life. It was a busy restaurant. Tables were packed in close together. Jack got up to go to the bathroom. And while I was sitting there, I was like, okay, I'm not going to go on my phone and scroll while I'm in these surroundings of this restaurant around me. So I'm just going to like sit here and take in the vibes. I was sitting there alone, and I overheard a woman at the table behind us ask this man who I guess must have been elderly by the question that she asked. I couldn't see him because he was seated with his back to me. But she asked him something that landed and made me kind of stop in my tracks. She asked him, "Has getting old been like you expected it would be?" I didn't hear what led up to the question, but when I heard it, it felt like it was meant for me to hear. Like it was meant for me to sit with, given where we are in our lives right now. So when Jack came back, I kind of whispered and I told him, like, oh my God, I just heard the most amazing question, and I shared it with him. And he goes, wow, that was rude. I was like, what do you mean it was rude? And he's like, well, I mean, the guy doesn't want to hear that he's old, and we'll talk about that later, but it was just like not like it was announcing someone's age, or it didn't sound like it was demeaning, but I sat with it more and I realized that that wasn't something that bothered me, because let's be honest, we are all getting older. Every single one of us. Botox, workouts, supplements, clean eating, collagen powder in my coffee, you know, things that we are trying to bring into our lives to aid in the aging process, but none of that changes the fact that time keeps on moving. That woman wasn't like saying that to demean him, in my opinion. She wasn't asking about like, hey, how did it feel to have to wear a hearing aid or your hair going gray? She was asking something that I believe was so much bigger. Is this how you want your life to unfold? And this is where I want to turn the conversation in this week's episode. Because when you are childless after infertility, that question can land in a very specific way. Aging for women without kids is often framed as something to brace for. You know the narrative. Who's going to take care of you when you get older? You're going to regret this. What if you die old and alone in a nursing home? I mean, if you ever listen to episode 1 of this podcast back from 2021, I bring those things up. And layered on top of all of those questions are physical fears that you might not always say out loud. Oh my gosh, like I am getting wrinkly. My boobs are sagging. I'm gaining weight. My body is changing in ways that I didn't plan for. What if you don't recognize yourself in the mirror as you used to see yourself physically? I mean, there are all these things. And here's what I believe is important to say out loud. For a lot of women, especially women who have been through this journey, our body has been under a lot of scrutiny for a long time. You've tracked it, you've monitored it, you've judged it, you've asked it to perform, asked it to cooperate, asked it to do something that it couldn't do. And so, of course, aging feels really personal, and it's not vanity. It's not something that you need to judge yourself for. And yeah, there are things that we can do, the skincare routine, strength training, hormone replacement, bras to lift up and pad us. Those things are fine, but aging is more than a physical process. And when you reduce it to how do I stop this? You miss the conversation because the real fear usually isn't about appearance, it's existential. It's those big underlying questions about your existence. It's the fear that without kids, your life is going to feel smaller, that there's no built in structure, no default role, no obvious shape to the years ahead. And when motherhood doesn't happen, yes, we have lost more than children. You lose these assumed milestones, those built in reasons to move and be close to your grandkids, or default ways that time gets structured because you're tracking against your kids' college schedules or high school schedules or a cultural storyline of how aging is supposed to go. So instead of dreaming about getting older, many of us brace for it and prepare defensively. You focus on logistics, money, care plans, legal documents, backup plans for backup plans. And yeah, those things are important. Yes, they are responsible, but bracing is not the same as imagining. And living in reaction mode for too long starts to shrink your future. And reaction mode sounds like I'll deal with that later, or I'll figure it out when I have to, or I don't have the bandwidth to think about that now, or I don't even know why I want to think about that because financially I'm not ready to make those decisions yet. And that makes sense when you've already had to let go of a future you worked so hard for. But eventually, reaction mode starts to feel like life is happening around you instead of with you. So here's the reframe that I am going to offer you this week. What if getting older isn't something that just has to happen for you? What if getting older is something that you get to participate in? Not control perfectly, not map it out because we have all the answers or the certainty, not lock down a rigid 5-year plan, but participate in your aging process because the loudest story about aging without kids is fear-based, and fear is not a vision. So let's come back to your body for a moment. Yes, it is going to change. It may have already changed some. It may have been like, oh, damn, how did that happen so fast? Because gravity is undefeated. And yes, there may be moments where you look in the mirror and think, where did that wrinkle come from? That doesn't mean you failed. It means that you are living. Aging bodies aren't just bodies in decline. When I think about our bodies that carried grief and still show up for us, bodies that adapted when life demanded flexibility instead of certainty, and bodies that learned how to feel comfort after all the loss that we've experienced. You get to decide how you want to relate to that body of yours as it changes. You can absolutely stay at war with it. You can constantly feel like it let you down, or you can shift into seeing it and connecting to it. And this shift is one that doesn't have to be fueled by shame. It can be fueled by respect for your body, for the aging process. And, parents often offer age around children's lives. And, it's true. We often see the parents in our lives, our friends or elders around us who are parents. They plan aging around their children's lives. They decide, are they going to move to be closer to kids? Are they going to be closer to grandkids? Are they going to be snowbirds and live half the year somewhere else? And they get to choose, how do they spend the holidays? Who do they prioritize? What their schedules look like. And those paths often seem like they're offered automatically. I don't know that they are. If you ask people who have kids, they might tell you that they have challenges in knowing all these things, but it is this societal roller coaster that we are often put on, that when you're childless, you don't get anything handed to you. You don't get the opportunity to make those decisions. And while being childless can feel unsettling, it's also where your agency lives. So let's pause with that for a moment. No pressure, no answers required right now, just curiosity. Where do you imagine wanting to live as you get older? What kind of environment would feel grounding to you? What do you want your days to look like? Do you want to live a life that has movement in it, creativity, community, solitude, adventure, contribution? What do you want to be thinking as you get older? Not worrying about, thinking about. And you're not being asked to make these decisions today. I am just throwing this out there so that you can notice what feels alive when you think about your future. Even noticing what you don't want counts. You don't need the answers right now. Just allow yourself in these moments with me for the permission to imagine, as if you're listening to this, that you can feel that pull, that sense of like, yes, I want to be intentional about my future, but I honestly don't know where to begin. That is why I offer Thrive calls. Every week, I pretty much talk about how you can schedule a free Thrive call with me. It's a 45-minute conversation where we can slow down everything that is going on in your brain right now and look at what you want to feel like now, what you want to see as you get older, not in a vague way, not in a pressure-filled way, but in a way that feels grounded, that feels practical, human, something that takes in account what you've been through and what actually matters to you now. So I love to offer that to you, because when I talk about things like aging and what you want to do when you get older, you might feel this sense of tightness that comes around you because you're like, I have no clue. I have no idea what I would even think is available to me that feels expansive and plentiful when I think about aging. But clarity usually comes from the conversations. And that's why you can come to a Thrive call and you don't need to know what you want your whole life to look like. You just need a place where you can start talking about it openly and honestly and without judgment. So if that feels supportive, I'll put a link right here in the show notes to book a Thrive call, because likely you have felt very reactive when you think about the things that you have gone through. You have done so much to make it through infertility treatments and to get to this point where, you know, You're not navigating the appointments, the decisions, the losses, the next steps, but you also don't know how do you get started with this, like, second half of life. But I don't want you to feel that this reaction mode that you have been living in has to stay permanent. I want you to know that you can start imagining your future that doesn't betray your grief. It acknowledges that your story is still unfolding. Aging without kids doesn't automatically mean loneliness or decline. It means that you get to be intentional in ways most people never get to consider. You get to decide what matters to you. You get to decide where your energy goes. You get to decide who you become, not someday, now in 2026. So as I sat in that restaurant, I realized that that question I needed to hear because it wasn't a rude question, it was honest. And maybe the better question for you isn't, what am I afraid will happen as I get older? But maybe the better question is, how do I want to participate in this life that's ahead of me? So I hope that you sit with this during the week and as you contemplate a new year starting ahead and really take that with you and chew on it a little bit. So I hope you have a beautiful week. Merry Christmas. I love you. And remember that it's never too late to discover your meaning. I'll talk to you next week. Hey, real quick, I just want to tell you about an awesome resource I created. If you have ever found yourself in conversations with people, or maybe people offering you suggestions about what you should do to become a mom, it's called The Top 27 Things People Say When You're Childless and How to Respond. You can get your copy free at lanamanikowski.com/things people say.